Going back to the Clone Wars 2008 theatrical debut, there was the implication that Anakin was given a padawan for a specific reason or purpose. We were all stunned. What? Anakin has a padawan? How could this be? Anakin is a padawan. He's Obi-Wan's padawan. How could he have a padawan? So what I'm wondering is that true? Was Ahsoka given to Anakin to be his apprentice for a specific reason? And was that accomplished?
Well, ultimately, the purpose behind it all was dealing with attachments, and it was to see if Anakin could learn to let go of someone that he cared very deeply about. So the Jedi know that part of this training and part of this understanding comes from the training of a Padawan, and how you deal with training them and how you deal with them when they're under stress and when they're afraid or angry. These are all important things for Jedi to deal with, and Anakin would have to deal with it if he had a Padawan. We would see different stages of this throughout the series. One of the moments was after the Wookiee episode where she helps rescue Chewbacca. You see Yoda watching the two of them walking off, and they're very much walking off in a very balanced way, that Anakin had to deal with the loss of Ahsoka and not being able to do anything about it, and then come to the conclusion that the reason that she survived was because of the way that he had taught her, and that would stick with her for the rest of her life, hopefully. So, is that accomplished now in the end? I think we know because of Order 66, we can say that it was not, and there might be several reasons for this. Did things transpire that ended up having Ahsoka leave too soon? Sooner than expected, possibly. She didn't become, after all, a Jedi Knight. Did the Jedi misunderstand the depth to which Anakin had already overstepped this feeling of attachment? Did they understand that he was married to Padme? Probably not. I think they realized that he's fond of her, but I don't think that they guessed the depth to which he's gone. And I think one of the things that I alluded to was that Ahsoka does know this and understands this about Anakin. And I think it helps in her decision, actually, to walk away. So I think for her, it becomes about what Barris says isn't really wrong. It's how she deals with it that's wrong. Ahsoka's experiences let her know that there's a certain truth to what Barris is saying, but she can't agree with her methods. Barris we had on as the other Padawan on the show, really, to see how Luminara, a traditional Jedi, trains a Padawan, which we saw in the episodes on Geonosis were very different. Mm-hmm. It was very different than the way Anakin trained Ahsoka. That really comes to a head at the end of the Clone Wars series here, where, Barris and Ahsoka have definitely dealt with different methods of dealing with what they perceive to be corruption within their own order and disappointment at how the Clone Wars have gone, and disappointment at how they feel their own leadership is compromised at the hands of the Senate or not. So, it's a difficult thing to accept, but the Jedi at the end of the day in the Clone Wars era, you have to say it, they fail because they lose the war ultimately. The deception of Order 66 occurs, and the Chancellor becomes victorious and is named Emperor. So I think finding a way for Ahsoka to somehow succeed at not being eliminated necessarily on at that moment, and I guess we haven't even hit that moment yet in time, so we have to wait and see. But was a tricky challenge, and I think that we came up with a story written by Charles Murray that really addressed a lot of the big questions that we had in Revenge of the Sith. Well, what do people on Coruscant think of the Jedi? What do they think of this war that's lingered on? Where does the Senate stand, and how do people like Tarkin fit in, and how much has their power grown? Do people agree with the war the whole time? The Chancellor says the Jedi tried to stage a coup on my life and take over. Why do people believe that so readily in Revenge of the Sith? Well, when you start to plug in stories like this one with Ahsoka, you start to see how that, I think, becomes a lot more believable. to people within the Republic. So it all, it's about Anakin, it's about Ahsoka, but it's also about that time period and what the temperature of the populace was like on Coruscant and within the Republic that allowed the Emperor to take over. Barriss makes this big speech about her ideals and what she thinks is wrong with the Jedi Order, and yet the manipulator of the whole thing is actually standing there in the room, and she doesn't see it. Tarkin doesn't really care because he's just after his own power and his own power base. So, we could really, and I'd be willing to come back and just talk for a whole show about Ahsoka and that arc in particular. It'd be great to get the Swanker back for that one.
Yeah.
So he can ask some questions. And I don't mind that. I mean, I think that Ahsoka as a character obviously was very important to me, and she became very important to fans. So, and obviously, I don't know if you read Ashley's blog on StarWars.com, but she and I talked quite a bit about this arc before we went and did it. And she had a lot of questions that I had to answer for her to portray this particular period of Ahsoka's life. And I think that we really worked well together as an actress and director to make this a believable moment. And her performance, especially when she says, "I'm sorry, Master, I'm not coming back," is just a fantastic delivery of that line.
Hey, this is Dave Filoni of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you are listening to Rebel Force Radio.